Hey everyone, welcome. I'm gonna give it a minute to let some of you guys get in here. I'm excited. I was live last night, live again tonight. This is fun. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna get Baron's video pulled up to where I want. So I'll give it a minute because I'm still getting used to how long it takes for people to get in here. I was planning on going live on Rumble because I'm trying to get Rumble set up because I've already noticed that my videos on Rumble are getting better views than I've been getting them on here. Super cool, bro. So, I don't know who watched Baron's live stream tonight. I actually didn't even get to finish it. It's tough when the kids are up and I'm making a million snacks and shit. All right. Hopefully some people will get in here. I'm hoping it's a good night, being that it's a Friday, and I don't really know who out there is actually, because it's like you forget that you're somewhere totally different than the other people that are maybe listening. I also feel like my mic is right here and I'm so close to the camera. My hair's a little wild tonight, but I don't think I need to be right at my mic. I need to get a boom arm so that I don't have to feel like I need to lean in. I'd like to be back further, but I don't know how quiet it is. It's so hard from this side of things, you're just guessing based on, how videos look after the fact. But yeah, I wanted to come on because I had seen like bits and pieces of his live stream, and then I was rewatching it while I was putting my kiddo to bed. And just even the first portion after his little monologue that he does I was already like sucked in. So I thought we could watch that together. Hello. I was just about to get Baron's live stream pulled up. I've got it queued up to an interesting part. I did not get to finish it, though. I've only watched portions of it, but this first part, I don't know. I know I had talked before about feeling odd in regards to when Tyler Boyer kind of came on the scene and that clip. Hey! I don't know if you guys have seen the clip where Tyler Boyer is talking about how he was like, "I gotta get Charlie down to Arizona," right? So he sounds like he was kind of trying to convince him to get down there. It just makes all of that like, when I heard that, I was already like, "This seems suspicious," right? Like, it seems like I don't know. It felt like everybody's trying to push him where he's supposed to go, like, they're all in on it and he's not. Anyway, the first part of Baron's live stream tonight, the part that I did get to see because I missed a chunk and then I was back on and I was there when he was doing his super chats and stuff. But this first part that I haven't even completely gotten through it, so I'll play it from like where I was, the start of this section, and we can watch it together. But immediately I was like, this is bringing me back to like the whole idea that like something was up from the start. So let me go ahead and get it pulled up here. I was gonna stream on Rumble for the first time because I set up a new Rumble account for this channel because I definitely have noticed that they push out the content a lot less if there's certain words, and I assume that's like a moving target. You're always kind of trying to figure out which words are gonna get you in the doghouse or something. And I noticed that in the beginning, I was getting really great views right off the bat, and then the last, like, week or so, they've just tanked. Like, I have a couple videos. Normally, I would have, like, I don't know, 15 views pretty quickly, and some of them have only had, like, 7 views for, like, over 24 hours, which is so weird, and I think it's just certain topics and stuff. So, I figured I'll start a Rumble, and I thought I'd go live on there tonight, but, um maybe I will. Maybe I'll try after this, but I didn't wanna connect the 2. I've heard bad things about that. So if you guys are wanting to follow me on Rumble, you can. I don't even know if you can find me on there. It's very weird. It is not as streamlined as YouTube for sure, because when you go on there, if I try to search for my channel, it says there's none there. So I think I would need to share, like a link or something, but whatever. Anyway, I've wasted enough time. Let's get this part from Baron's live stream pulled up because curious down here. Tina. I never let them down here, but I decided to tonight. Maybe she'll sometimes sit on my son's lap while he's at his computer, so maybe she'll come visit me. She's so delish. Her brother is too scared though. He would never come up on my lap. Okay. Let me try to make this bigger. All right. I'm not certain exactly if I stopped this in the right spot, but we'll go ahead and get started here anyway. So essentially, bearing about the individual who kind of like sparked Charlie's desire to start TPUSA. And then he pulls up here very shortly the tax filings for TPUSA from like year 1 and onwards. And there's definitely some, I don't know what she's doing. There's definitely some intriguing things that pop up. So let's take a look.
We'll leave the speculation about why the sudden surges in revenue and organizational growth. Erika Frantzve?
Lives are sometimes they don't work smoothly. So can you just let me know that you can see the screen? Because when I share sometimes other videos, it goes black. And I don't know if it's just like a YouTube trying to keep up because it's live and if it comes back or if it stays black. So if you're seeing that, definitely let me know in the chat because I don't want to sit here sharing stuff you can't see. And if I toggle between the 2 screens, it's a little bit trickier to, I might be able to, no, because if I move that, it'll mess up for you. So, okay. Yeah, it might just be poor connection with this weather coming too. Like we don't have it yet, but it could be impacting parts of like YouTube's like, I don't know where they're housed out of or where they have like primary locations and stuff. So I would expect that could cause some issues this next weekend here.
And why the second in revenue and organizational growth happened after he married Erika Frantzve. But tonight I just wanted to plot the coordinates. I wanted to lay the groundwork because it matters, especially in light of Erika Frantzve taking control of TPUSA after her husband was brutally murdered in broad daylight in Orem, Utah. It matters. And I want to go through some of this. That's your opening statement. I want to go through some of this because I think sometimes the visual helps. I don't want to bore you to tears with all this, but I do want to show you what I mean when I say that these numbers just skyrocketed. And when you see it, you'll see it. You'll absolutely see it.
It's
so let
pretty
me
wild.
open this. This is can be found on ProPublica. This is their nonprofit page where you can look up the finances of nonprofits. It's important to note Tyler Boyer made a comment about this recently. This happened long before Tyler Boyer was around, and I think it's totally by accident and not for the reason he said, but I could be wrong on that. Their fiscal year ends in June of every year, meaning this filing you're looking at on your screen right here, this revenue of $78,890 for the fiscal year ending June 2013, I think it's wholly convenience because it was that they just started in June. So if they want to avoid filing a tax return 6 months later, they can just make the fiscal year the next summer. It's a lot easier that way. I don't think it has anything to do with semesters and all this kind of stuff.
All right, Baron.
But you'll see here, the very first year, this is Bill Montgomery, random guy we know almost nothing about, and I've got a video of him. I'll play it in just a moment.
Remember his name. I haven't seen the video. That guy he was just referring to is the one who basically convinced Charlie at like some event when Charlie was like ready to graduate high school to start TPUSA. That's pretty, if I recall what he was saying right, because like I said, I was kind of like in the middle of making food for kids and doing all kinds of stuff when he was going over this part. But that's what he made it sound like, which is just, I don't know. This is why all this stuff always comes up to me when I'm talking about this. And I say, how many people do you know? Like with the child trafficking stuff, how many people do you know who have direct relations to anyone involved in anything like that? Like, I'm sure some people do, obviously, but for the most part, the majority of us probably either aren't aware that we have those connections or, you know what I mean? And so this is just another one of those bizarre anomalies, if you ask me. I don't know about you, but I don't know how many people are at like a high school event that are convinced to, start a immediately incredibly successful business as a high school graduate. It's just, what are the odds? I don't know. I just find it weird. I find it interesting.
Random guy approaches Charlie Kirk and says, you and I are going on the road. Tell your parents it's not creepy. Well, guys, it sounds a little creepy, to be honest with you, but I'm willing to accept for now that it's not creepy. They go on the road the first 12 months. They make a grand total of $78,000. Spend about 52 of it.
Can you imagine? Side note, like nowadays, I feel like this kind of stuff, like let's just pretend for a second that it truly was like a whole setup planned thing, like Charlie Kirk was part of the GATE program, or he was part of some sort of program for gifted kids, and they track that stuff. I'm certain of that. And so he's kind of had this like target on his back as like a potential person for whatever, right? Fill in the blank, whatever they needed him for. I feel like now with social media and things like YouTube where we can all talk with each other in real time like we are right now, I feel like it would be so hard for them to do that. Like they must have to constantly come up with new ideas and new ways to try and manipulate and I think that is why things seem so off the chain right now. Like across the board, like everything going on right now with the protests and ICE and Venezuela, like everything feels so insane and crazy. Like we all know, if you pay attention, we all know already that chaos is created intentionally for us because for the most part, most of us need to work because who can't work in this economy? And because of that, we're so busy. So they know that for the most part, most of us don't have the ability to stay on top of all the crazy shit that's going on a literal daily basis. And I think they definitely use that to their advantage. But with the connections we now have with people from across the world, immediate connections, like right now, we're literally talking in real time. It's got to make these kinds of things hard. And I feel like they're like scrambling, right? Like whoever you want to consider they, right? Like the powers that be, the people above us, the people, everybody thinks it's left versus right. It's obviously us versus them. We're the guinea pigs, essentially. We always have been. And I feel like they're recognizing that the tables are turning. Does this make sense? Like, if anybody's feeling it, chat with me and tell me, but I feel like it's almost like we can watch, like, if you, like, took a bird's eye view and you see it's like do you remember the scene in, Office Space when they're like, "What do you say you do here?" And he's like, "I'm a people person. I deal with the people." And he's, like, freaking out because he's afraid he's gonna lose his job, and he's just spewing out, like, random crap, panicky. I feel like that from, like, bird's eye view is what, like, all of these higher up powerful people, government people are looking like to me. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like it's like, "No, we're doing the things we said. You guys gotta stop talking online. You gotta stop, you can't be saying those things. It's not true. That's not," like, I don't know about you, but I get that, like, panicky, like, we're losing our grip type vibe, and part of me is, like, loving it. I think it's fantastic, but it does make me wonder if situations like, if we were to say that this was planned for Charlie Kirk from the get-go, um, like, I imagine those things would be harder now. It would be harder for them to pull it off because they know that we're watching. They know that we're talking. That's why they try and suppress us. Anyway, I'm rambling. We'll continue.
And they have net income of about 26,000. This is a very simple operation. The next year, you get a little pop in revenue, they get a little pop in expenses, and they have a little income. Still, this is a nonprofit, so you don't have to pay taxes on this income. You don't have to distribute this income. It just rolls over to be used in the next year should you want to use it. You'll notice the executive compensation is almost nothing, 35. Other salaries and wages, $1.
I also is it, like, just, like, naive to these types of businesses, but, like, is this, like, a crazy amount of money for, like, your 2nd year or even your 1st year? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how nonprofits work. I suppose when you're, like, out there trying to obtain donations from people, you're kind of presenting it in a way, like, usually if you start a business, you're not really out there, like, asking people to give you money, so I suppose there's a difference there, but I don't know. It feels highly successful from the get-go. I recognize that, like, between the costs of running the business, technically, they're, like, at a loss or whatever, but I don't know, seems like a lot to come in from day one. No, maybe I know nothing. I know nothings.
So these guys are living like, I don't know if they're eating, popcorn and ramen noodle. I don't know I don't know how they're surviving.
Basically, he was saying they weren't paying themselves
The
very much at all.
following year, this is June 2015. Now, again, keep this on a path here. 78,000, 440,000. Now they're raising $2 million. The thing about nonprofits is we don't get to see where this money's coming from. We don't get to see who gave the $2 million. We don't know, is this $5 and $10 at a time, people hitting the donation button on their website? Were people buying some sort of a membership to get emails from them or get them? Were people showing up at events and paying it? We don't know where the money's coming from. You don't have to know. Or we don't know if some millionaire is like, I'll give you $2 million. But they, June 2015, $2 million. Again, still not changing money when you got.
I'd be curious to know. I don't know if out there knows because I don't know what everybody does for work, but does anybody know why we don't get to see that? Like, is it because it's a nonprofit and that has I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what it's still obviously, like, nonprofits have to be able to prove that, like, the funds they receive are used for whatever purposes. Like, they're supposed to come out as, like, a wash, you know what I mean? At least that's what I think, right? But it does make me wonder why necessarily, because in situations like this, like, it would be important to know who donates so much. I mean, this obviously, these sorts of things would be a great way to hide money, but people do it all.
Two people, and you've got expenses of 1.4 million. And they did hold a little back. And if you combine all this together, they've almost got $1 million in the bank, and they're bringing in $2 million in donations. So it's pretty I mean, for a nonprofit at this point, this is a very fiscally conservative nonprofit. Again, executive compensation, $13,000. Now, it looks like they had hired a few people by this point. $440,000 in salaries and wages. And then 2016 comes along. This is revenue through the Republican primary. June of 2016. And they pulled in $4 million, almost a little more than double what they did. Their expenses were almost $4 million, a little bit of net income there, and they've banked it. So now they're $1.3 million. So you're beginning to see this is a very smartly run organization. I will give Bill Montgomery and Charlie Kirk that, and George Hamstra. This is a very smartly run organization. They're not overextending themselves. They're not spending every dollar that comes in. They're squirreling money away for a rainy day. They're not paying themselves a tremendous amount of money. I think Charlie Kirk and I think if you pull the numbers here, and I pulled it earlier, I think they paid themselves like $26,000 or $28,000 each. It was very little compensation for them. And they did hire a bunch of other people. These were people knocking on doors and all that. And helping to host events. 2017, up to $8 million. Again, doubled from
almost
four,
like double every
doubled
year,
from two. Do you see the pattern here? We give you a little bit of money. We see we can trust you with it. We give you a little more money. They take in 8, they spend 8. This covered the 2016 election and the 6 months after the 2016 election. Executive compensation kicked up a little bit. Bill and Charlie paid themselves a little more. The salaries kicked up a little bit. They had some more people on the payroll helping them out. But again, nothing crazy. You wouldn't look at this and say that's ludicrous for a nonprofit that's been in operation for a few years. And this is the last one that you'll see before Erika Frantzve.
So this is when it gets interesting. So this is, like you said, the last year prior to meeting Erika.
This is up to $11 million. So the doubling every year has stopped. But they did add $3.5 million or $2.5 million contributions over and above the previous year.
But wait,
and they upped their expenses a little bit, but they still had over $1 million in the bank by the end of the year.
It's crazy.
They upped how much they paid themselves a little bit, and they added some additional salary and staff, and they had some other travel expenses. This is the last. This is still, I know this is going to shock you because $11 million is a lot of money. But 11 in, 11 out leaves you, as it says here, net income negative. And they're only paying themselves about $80,000 a year, which again, this is 7, 8 years ago. But it's not particularly egregious. But watch what happens. This is the moment he meets Erika Frantzve. I think it's a month or two after this tax return is filed, after this tax return closes.
How weird.
After fiscal year 2018. And keep in mind, the only 3 people listed on the officers, directors, and key employees, the only 3 people listed as of this return right here, I'll show you. I'll show you right here. So you don't have to take my word for it. The only 3 people, Bill Montgomery, Charlie Kirk, George Hamstra. That's it. Charlie and Bill paid them a year.
I missed who George is. I'm not sure who he is. I recognize he's the director, but I don't know where he came from. Like I know that this William Montgomery dude is the one who I guess like basically recruited Charlie to start the company. That's what I gather from what he was saying earlier, unless I mistook something. And then I'm not sure who George is, but
it's a pretty good living for Charlie Kirk, who's like 21 years old at the time.
Can you imagine
22
making that much at 22?
That's a pretty good living for a 22-year-old. I don't know a lot of 22-year-olds making 80 grand. Now watch what happens the next year.
This is crazy.
They go from $11 million. He meets Erika Frantzve. We're at $28 million the next year. I mean, we didn't just double. We almost tripled. And we were already in the 8-figure range. Now let's look at the filing. Not only did they triple, look what happened to their officers, directors, and key employees. No longer is it just Bill Montgomery, George Hamstra, and Charlie Kirk. We've added Mike Miller, Tom Sedeka, Tyler Boyer, Benjamin Johnson, Joshua Defoe, Stacy Sheridan, Doug DeGroot. We've added a lot of people here. And we've added a lot of salary. Now all of a sudden he's making $300 grand a year. He made 80 the year before that. Now Tyler Boyer there the year before.
I can hear. I'm not a man hater by any means. I have 2 boys I'm raising and a wonderful husband, but I feel like I can hear the dudes like, of course he had to pay himself $300,000. He's dating a chick now, you know what I mean? But but this is astronomical, right? I kind of wanted to try and do like a quick let me see if I can word this right. I'll play this while I try to figure this out because I wanted to ask a question, and I'll do that while you guys watch
For
this.
that. Joshua Stefoe making 140. Stacey Sheridan making 180. Bill Montgomery's still around 80. So this is a fundamental difference in how TPUSA is being operated. And it's not lost on me. It is certainly not lost on me that this near tripling in revenue, this near tripling in expenses, 2.5 times increase in expenses and tripling in revenue, and all this additional key staff comes in when Erika Kirk enters the picture. Remember, she came by supposedly to interview. That was the story we've all been fed. I don't believe it. I think it was a setup from the beginning. That's just my opinion. But she supposedly came in just to interview. Charlie was so captivated by her, he thought, I'd rather date you instead. Why don't we go to dinner at the burger
Speaking of
joint?
that, I've said it before, but part of me feel like when that interview just to recap, so the whole Tyler Boyer thing, when he made that statement that he was like, "We need to get Charlie Kirk to Arizona and blah, blah, blah," and then that's the year that he met Erika, all this changed, right? Part of me was like, they all knew each other also. Like, Erika's family is friends with lots of these people who are on the TPUSA board and stuff. And so when I had first heard all of that, I immediately was kind of like, was the whole plan like again early on to get him to Arizona and like to introduce him to Erika with the assumption that because she's a very pretty woman that like he wouldn't be able to like turn her down or something, and where he's conservative they knew like he would want to be the person to pursue a woman. So I just have this feeling that like I it's like I can picture the conversation like, oh, we have this woman who is going to come interview for a position within TPUSA even though she didn't need a job, and she's going to be here at 11 or whatever. You're going to interview her. But I don't know if you're going to want to hire her because she's really cute and you might want to ask her on a date instead. Like sometimes all it takes is like that little bug planted in your ear and it doesn't have to he wouldn't have thought necessarily that um they had kind of set it up. It would have just been something he was like, they're right or whatever. I don't see that as being completely out of the question. Even if that whole thing didn't pan out that way, he probably would have hired her with her experience and, her connections. He probably would have hired her and then they would have had more time to try to get them to connect romantically. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm just saying.
Wherever they went up. It's a totally different organization. And again, I'm confident that a lot of these people were known to her prior. I can't prove that off the top of my head right now. I don't have the connections available to pull up. But I know in 2015, I'm pretty confident, wasn't Erika Kirk at an event with Tyler Boyer in 2015? It was 3 years before this. She shows up, Tyler shows up, everything's starting to skyrocket. We're still preaching, again, if you go back and look at old videos of TPUSA, if you go back and look at old speeches of Charlie Kirk, things he wrote, things he said, it's still 100% about economic liberty at this point. There is really no religious. I know that's hard to believe because Charlie Kirk is known as a modern day prophet. He's known and he's well loved as somebody who preached Jesus and Christ crucified every time he turned around. That is the last few years of his life. That was not the message in 2018 and 2019. It was a message of economic liberty. You can go back to their website. You can go back to the Wayback Machine. You could get on YouTube and look at old videos, look at old speeches. But they met in the summer of 2018. Right after this was filed. Right after that was filed, they met, and then this happened. and they added all these key employees making six figures. The next year, it goes up to $40 million. This is the last filing before they get married. And after they get married, TPUSA is never the same again.
So
you can go back and look. You can see.
I had said I wanted to search for something on Grok, and I did. So I was searching to see what the odds are of a nonprofit like TPUSA growing as quickly as it had. So I gave it like a little bit of information in regards to like the years of growth and like the number jump there that we just saw. It said, let's see, the average annual revenue growth rate for U.S. nonprofits is typically in the low single digits. For instance, one analysis of the sector shows an average compounded annual growth rate of around 6.7 over multi-year periods. Okay. Other studies, typical early increases at 5 to 7% for established organizations aiming for sustainable expansion. Larger jumps often occur in younger or niche organizations that hit a tipping point with fundraising, such as securing major grants, celebrity endorsements, or riding a wave of public interest. So, to quantify rarity, among the thousands of nonprofits tracked by sources like the IRS and nonprofit analytic firms, only a small fraction experienced triple-digit percentage growth in a single year. A review of post-1990 profits that eventually reached $50 million in annual revenue indicates that explosive early growth is key for many, but those are the exceptions. So obviously, very unlikely. If we consider odds in a rough probabilistic sense based on sector-wide data, the likelihood of any given nonprofit achieving over 100% revenue growth in a year is likely under 5%, though exact figures aren't available due to the diversity of the sector. Okay. So it says here, it does give examples of other nonprofits with similar growth. While not every case matches TPUSA exactly, several nonprofits have seen 100% plus revenue surges in a single year, often driven by strategic pivots, media attention, or external events. Here are notable ones. Trinity Broadcasting of Texas. I kind of feel like this list he's giving me is one that my ADHD, I would just like dive into looking at all of the details about these companies to see if there's any connection. Trinity Broadcasting of Texas, this religious media nonprofit experienced a staggering 399% revenue increase in 1 year. Holy shit. Jumping to 105 million. This was fueled by expanded broadcasting and donor campaigns. It's not giving me years. I kind of wish it was giving me years. Games Done Quick. This gaming charity event organizer reported a 30% revenue increase from a single event in 1 year, raising $3 million, but their overall organization growth had included multi-year doublings as esports populate. Yeah, I mean, when that grew, I'm sure. Smaller examples from donor growth leaders, organizations like Mecklenburg Dream Center saw donor numbers jump 230% from 109 to 360, which often correlates with revenue spikes over 100%. In conservative political or advocacy categories, specifically, TPUSA itself is often cited as one of the fastest growing in this space, with overall revenue expanding. It's freaking nuts. With overall revenue expanding 563% from 2016 to 2019. Wow. This was during a period of heightened concern. I mean, yes, so it was during like an important period of time, obviously. And we are talking about obviously an area where lots of money is donated on a regular basis, but 563% TPUSA's revenue expanded from 2016 to 2019. Other conservative networks, like those funded by the Bradley Foundation, have poured millions into groups like Stephen Miller's America First Legal or Charlie Kirk affiliated entities, enabling quick growth for recipients. Over $1 billion annually across 250 plus right-wing nonprofits. However, specific 100% plus single-year examples in this niche are less documented publicly. In summary, TPUSA's growth was exceptional, but aligns with patterns seen in politically charged environments. Yeah, I could see that making a difference, but that much of a difference? I don't know. I think that's insane. All right. That I think, let me see if he's got anything else. Oh, I didn't actually get a chance to look at those closer. I kind of want to look at them a little closer, the salaries. So this is like year 1, right? For these
And he's well loved as somebody who preached Jesus and Christ crucified every time he turned
those
around.
look like.
That is the last few years of his life. That was not the message in 2018 and 2019. It was a message of economic liberty. You could go back to their website. You can go back to the Wayback Machine. You could get on YouTube and look at old videos. Look at old... But they met in 2018. Right after this was filed.
That's so crazy, dude.
Right after that was filed, they met, and then this happened. And they added all these key employees making 6 figures. The next year, it goes up to $40 million. This is the last filing before they get married. And after they get married, TPUSA is never the same again. You can go back and look at the filing. You can see the long list of key employees.
That's what I want to see.
You can see this.
Okay, so let's look at these employees. So we've got Charlie Kirk, Justin Olson, Tyler Boyer. Who's this? Joshua. How do you say that? He's making quite a bit. Johnson Benjamin. I want to write these names down. This is just how my brain works. You know what I'm saying? So who are the people making the good money? Tyler Boyer, obviously we know him. Who's this Joshua? This is like a great list of people to try and dive into, honestly. Benjamin Johnson. That's a common name. That's going to be hard to probably narrow down. I'm interested.
Salaries are starting to pop up a little bit here. And this is when, right after this filing, June of 2020, this is when all of a sudden TPUSA takes a decidedly religious turn. And at the moment they take this decidedly religious turn, they were committed. They were absolutely committed.
Holy crap.
It was really between these two filings, 2020 and 2021. After this filing, they start TPUSA Faith. So you'll notice this was kind of flat here. 2020, 40 million. 2021, 55 million. I say flat. I mean, it's $15 million. But what's $15 million among a bunch of billionaire friends? They go to TPUSA Faith route. They start doing this, and all of a sudden the money really starts flowing in. $80 million worth of donations, $72 million worth of expenses, $9 million of profit. You go to this filing here, and this is just this one organization, keep in mind. Other organizations would be getting up, but I'm keeping it simple tonight. You go to this one, now Charlie Kirk's almost at $300,000. He's making $98,000 from another organization. So now he's up to $400,000 as a guy in his very early 20s, mid 20s, running a nonprofit, is totally inundated with all these
Oh,
people
that's more
that were
people
not
I
around
wanna
from the
see.
beginning.
I'm just taking notes, guys, if anybody like, I don't feel like we've talked about any of these people, so it makes me curious who they all are. Like, have we had access to all this information and nobody's you know what I mean? Just a name gives you a whole lot to go off of. Just trying to see who's Veronica Peterson and Alexandra Clark. Um, I think I'm gonna probably wrap up just because I was supposed to go live on Rumble, and I do wanna try to do that. So, I will probably try to go live. Before I do, though, I wanted to, just say, I don't know where everybody lives out there, depending on where you live and what this storm is gonna be like for you. I hope that everyone is safe. I know for us, we're probably gonna get, like, 26 inches of snow. Not that, like, I've never seen that, like, I feel like growing up, we had way more snow than we've seen for years here, so but yeah, if you guys are anywhere that's getting particularly the ice, I hope that everybody is safe, so, um, yeah, that's gonna do it for tonight. I'm gonna sign off. I'll be live again soon, I'm sure, if I am trapped in this house for the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. I will probably have plenty of time to record. So, as long as I can be keep my kids busy when I need to. So, that'll do it for tonight. I hope y'all had a great work week if you're working and if this is your weekend. Otherwise, be safe and I'll talk to y'all soon, I'm sure. Love y'all. Bye.